So I know you were both part of The Wrong Door, the series. I missed that. I was back in North America in those years and never seemed to catch it when I was there. But is that when you first met Ben, and did you two first meet then as well? Or was it another time that you met?
It was the first time we met Ben, but we met at another later stage, but through Ben.
Right.
Yeah. I met Ben on The Wrong Door. We did a few different sketches and different characters on that, and I was aware of MyAnna's work on that, but we didn't share the screen on that one at all. But yeah, we met sort of at an early stage originally. The Kill List was it was going to be a short really about a husband and wife who caught up in the recession, losing their home and take to robbing banks. And then that evolved and became The Kill List. So we met due to the short and then ended up doing the film.
Right. I mean, this is a question that must be tedious to be asked when you're on these kind of junkets about, but I'll ask it anyway because it's such an intriguing script. Like, what did you both think when you read the full script for the first time? I mean, it must have been quite something, quite a reaction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying, because this is truthful, I can't remember. What I remember most about my reaction to reading the script was the questions that it threw up. Because I knew when I first read it, I didn't read it correctly. I knew that. I knew there was a right way of pitching it, and I wasn't doing it at the time. So it threw up questions about, how to do it, what was the right way, what was the actual tone of it, what was the actual message of it, who was the actual character. So it just, as opposed to making me think that it was a bad, I didn't go, oh, this is great, this is not great. I just remember the questions, and I just remembered being excited to be part of it. There were questions that excited me, that filled me with a bit of dread, because I went, wow, okay, this is out of a normal comfort zone for me, but that really excited me at the same time. So that's how I remember it, really.
Yeah, it's hard to say because it was so long ago that the script came out, but as well because it evolved and we'd seen a synopsis, I think, before we saw the script, so we had some idea of the climax of the film already, so it didn't really have the shock that maybe it has on an audience seeing it for the first time. But more than anything, I mean, as an actor, a part like that, you're so excited by the nature of the role and the opportunity to take a character on that kind of arc, that the whatever the horrors are of the script are slightly overridden by your own ego.
It's so true.
I'm excited for me.
It's sure a showcase. It's a showcase part for you. It really is. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is. Yeah, it's a great role.
But I think also you sort of, because we're somebody like Ben, I have never actually questioned. I've always known Ben to be a great storyteller, and I have utter faith in him as a storyteller. So so my main sort of thought process was how to help him tell this story, how to do that, and never thought anything but that he was going to create something absolutely fabulous with this, although I might not actually have a clear image of what that end product would be, but I had utter faith that Ben had that, and that was enough for me. Then the rest was just being so utterly thrilled and excited to play such a great part, to be able to scream at Neil Maskell.
Well, your part is definitely the more enigmatic, I think. Maybe because you're in the film for less running time. We know that you were also in the military in your home country. We know you're obviously a devoted mother and wife. But then there's a lot we don't know about you. I mean, so how did you kind of approach that? I mean, how would you describe Shell? How was Shell? What were you thinking of her while you were making the film?
Well, I think. Well, first of all, I think it's true. We talked about this a lot. Is that Kill List can be read on so many different levels. It can be read literally. It can be read as an analogy for for many different things, many aspects of our society. It raises broader questions about violence, about family, about the recession, etc. And there's an element where you can see the story as really being a journey in Jay's head. But for me, I concentrated on creating, making Shell three-dimensional for me at least. So creating, I knew bits that were in the script. I think that's always where you start. You start with the script, you start with what is there and what isn't there. And then from that, you start building out. There were certain things that Ben told me about that he was, that he very much wanted to be part of Shell. And then there were other elements where I was allowed to go off and sort of fill in the gaps myself. So when it came to working on her, she was an incredibly three-dimensional character for me. I knew where she came from, the north of Sweden. I knew the background she had. I knew that she had joined the army very, very young, which is unusual usually for women. It's not compulsory in Sweden, but she'd chosen to do it. She had met an English man, moved to Britain, and essentially started a family from scratch with him. Although in the film you see her have a phone conversation with her mother, she's not a woman who I think sees herself as being part of a big family unit. Her family unit is her husband and her child, and the very, very few friends that they allow into that circle. And that's kind of her world and the world through which she operates. And the way she has a certain lifestyle that she is able to help provide for her family along with her husband, and that lifestyle is funded by an incredibly questionable. It's funded by questionable means, yeah. So that is Shell in a nutshell, really, in a long-winded nutshell.
No, not long-winded at all. I read Ben used in the production notes, he used the line, there's a lot of information lurking in the corner of the frames.
Yeah.
And so would you say that extended when you were actually making the film? There's a lot that you have to communicate in that same kind of way. It's just peripheral, it's not being all spelled out. There's not a lot of exposition. It's kind of what you get on the screen is what you get on, there's not someone standing around explaining it for 10 minutes beforehand. Yeah. So how did that affect how you kind of built your relationship as a couple and all those holes, all those gaps that we don't get to see?
Well, I think, despite the fact there isn't a lot of exposition, the script was well written enough that there were, as well, exactly what Ben says really, there was hidden detail. And it meant that when we sort of sat down, which we did obviously at some length, and talked about where Jay and Shell are at and why, why they've ended up at this place emotionally with each other, we were basically drawing most of that from the script, trying not to invent too much, stuff that had to be invented that wasn't already there, that wasn't already present. But sort of adding that detail and having had those conversations, I'm hoping it sort of underscores the dialogue and underscores the relationship that's on screen, so that the audience, I think anyone that's in a marriage or that's been in a long-term relationship, hopefully will recognise, even if they don't recognise the torture and the murdering of people, they'll recognise elements of their own relationship inside that of Jay and Shell, maybe. And
of course, the other significant person is Gal. I mean, in a way, it's almost a love triangle. Absolutely. Is the heart of the film, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he clearly feels very protective and loving towards both of you. Mm-hmm. Yet your character is a bit more ambivalent about him, maybe because you recognize that he's got feelings for your wife or something. But to me, that was the relationships I was saying to Ben are really what is at the heart of the film. It's not the horror so much; it's how the people function. Those three characters relating to each other. Yeah, would you? And
it's not just a love triangle in the film. In life, me and MyAnna and Michael.
Really?
Yeah, it's
sort of we're
kind of in a really complicated love triangle. I feel like she's in the way of me and Michael, to be honest with you.
There is some very touching moments that does come across on screen.
Trying to elbow my way in, but no. Usually offset, you would see sort of them two and me in a corner looking.
That's it.
Well, glad it wasn't all blood and guts then.
Oh no! Do you know? I think that's the thing about filming something like this and filming with the people that were involved. There was laughter all the time. you know, and it was probably one of the most fun shoots ever to be on. You know, we worked really, really hard. We all cared very strongly about this and about telling the story as well as we could and being as in the moment as we could. But we enjoyed it, and I think there was a lot of sort of mutual appreciation going
And all
on,
joking
really.
aside, there was a very deep affection amongst everyone that was involved in the making of the film. You know, my dad gaffered the film. You know,
Yeah.
Really?
It's strange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great.
So there was a real sense, familial sense on the set, and I think stuff like the relationship between those three characters and what you describe as a triangle, the foundation stone of that was the high regard that we held each other in.
Yeah.
You know.